If you have a really strong synergy between your audience, the content you make for that audience, and the offer you have tailored to that audience, you will crush it. The only real way you will make substantial revenue quickly is with something high ticket.
Dylan Reynolds is an entrepreneur who cracked the code to making money on YouTube. In this interview, he walks us through how he made $100,000 in just 30 days without a huge subscriber count.
The most important thing with YouTube is the idea. The next most important thing is the packaging, and then and if you are a nobody knows who you are, then nobody will click on it unless it's emotionally enticing in some way.
Dylan, my man, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you guys don't know who Dylan is, this guy is just a beast. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but I'm super pumped for this conversation. But before you kind of let people know who you are and your background, your credibility, I really am curious. When I was diving into your channel, you talked about 13 failed businesses. You're talking about couldn't feed your kid. And now you're getting flown out by Gary Vee to New York to meet his team, to present. You just made $100,000 in 30 days. Like, what changed? What is, if you could let us know, what would you say was the defining catalyst to this catapult of success?
That's a really good question. And also thanks for having me on as well. I'm happy to be here. I think that everybody is it's like that kind of fallacy of like knowing what you need to do versus actually doing it. So I have spent a lot of money and time going through mentorship and learning and reading books and, listening to all the advice and stuff. Like it wasn't that I didn't know what to do. I think it was a matter of actually just doing the thing. And I know that sounds maybe very lame of an answer, but it was really like having that moment where, like, for example, you just mentioned it. Like there was a moment where I couldn't even afford food for my son at the time. And it was like kind of this, when that happened, there was just this like certain switch that went on. Like I had tried so many businesses in the past, but it was that put me into a state of like, okay, I'm going to make something work and I'm going to do it fast and nobody's going to outwork me in doing this. I don't care what it takes. And I think that like what my moat became, if you will, or what my unfair advantage became was speed. So I started coming up, like I had a vague idea of what to do. Like I read all Hormozi's books and I listened to that advice and stuff. And I was like, listen, like we all have the blueprints. It's just the only thing between actually not getting to where I want to get is me not putting in the work the inputs that I need to put in to get the outputs. So I spent some time, I think like a full day, just figuring out, all right, like I knew where I wanted to go. What are the inputs that would get me there? As you could tell, I'm a big Hormozi fan. I was like, what are the inputs that I could do that would make it unreasonable for me not to get this result? And then I basically just kept coming up with, and I didn't know because I'd never done it. So it was all hypothesis, right? It was all what I assumed was the case. And then I just started putting in those inputs as fast as I could and failing at them and then learning why, not just failing, but analyzing that failure. Why didn't that work? Which is the same thing with YouTube, right? And then when that happened, I basically was like, all right, that didn't work. And then I would just go into the next thing. And I would take everything not as like a failure or, putting all my emotional eggs in one basket. More so just like, sweet, that didn't work. That just gave me one more data point to go forward. Like I was like unstoppable. There was something about that moment of not being able to buy my poor baby son at the time food that like failure became this like addicting thing where I was just like going to make it work no matter what. And it was really that right there. It was just, if I had to really say in one word, it'd be speed, like just iterating and taking action faster than anybody else was. I think like that's the whole reason I won that whole challenge that got me flown out and stuff too. It's like, I was just coming up with hypothesis of what I think would work and just testing it so fast. And at this point, like I have a free school group with over 2,000 members and I talk with a lot of them to get a lot of data points or feedback loops as much as I can. And I see people sitting on video ideas for 2 months, going back and forth, trying to get more data to see if it'll work or not. I'm like, dude, like I would have made that in 2 days to see if it would have worked or not. And then I would have moved on. And I think that was kind of like the biggest thing was just really mapping out and getting deep clarity on where I wanted to get and what what it would take to get the inputs of what it would take to get to those outputs. And then just coming up with what I thought that would be the case and just failing as fast as I could to figure out what worked and just doubling down, tripling down on that.
So leading up to this point, I want to talk about these failures, this speed. You mentioned in a YouTube video, if I'm not mistaken, 13 failed businesses.
Yeah.
Most people would quit after one. So what is your drive for the 13 attempts before, I put in quotations, you making it, right? Like, what was the driver for you for them? Because like you said, you've been on this journey for a long time, and speed was the real thing that actually unlocked everything. But now I want to go back and think about who are you as a person, and I want to unravel that, and because I don't know if I could go through 13 failed businesses. I don't know if someone listening or watching could, but maybe they could. Maybe you could just help us walk through this. What was your big driver behind that?
Yeah, I always had to, I'm sure this is probably really relatable for a lot of people. I always felt like I had this a lot of potential. It was just untapped. And every time I went into a business, I thought that okay, that was going to be the business that would tap into my full potential. That I've been, a lot of family members growing up, of course, family members, they would be like, oh, you have so much potential and stuff. But not just outside sources telling me that, but internally, I always felt like I wasn't living up to my full potential. And I felt like I always had a lot of it. I always had this outlook of, looking at people like Alex Ramosi or Gary Vee or, whatever it is or whoever it is, and always thinking, that's cool, but why can't I do that too? What do I need to do that, to be that person or whatever? I've never think anything's impossible. I think if somebody wants to be an actor, then of course I think you can be an actor, whatever it is. And I have the same kind of perspective on life and stuff. And I think it was because of that. So every business I tried and I failed, it was just okay, that wasn't the vehicle that allowed me to reach my full potential in the way I thought I could. Let's move on to the next one. Now, of course, there were moments where I wanted, in between those 13 failed businesses, there were times when I was just all right, maybe this isn't for me. Let's go get a job. And I tried finding a job and getting hired, and then it would last 2 weeks before I was on to my next business. But I've tried everything from starting my own window cleaning business to social media marketing to videography to everything. I've tried so many different things. And each one was just kind of again, almost like a data point. It's all right, cool. So this one, that sucks. And then you doubt yourself a little bit. But then after you get over that, you're all right, so that wasn't the vehicle for me to be able to reach my full potential. What's that next thing? And that's kind of, I think, what kept pushing me. Also, just the love of it. I love building things. I love the idea of synthesizing ideas or building things and businesses or channels or whatever it is. That's why I love YouTube, because it's every week I have to build a new thing. And I think that it's also a mix of just passion and interest in business and everything that comes with that, while also always feeling it's a way that I could scratch the itch of trying my best to reach my full potential. And I don't think I will ever reach it, but at least it gets me a little bit closer.
So your big why was that it wasn't a tangible thing. It sounds like it's an internal feeling that probably a lot of us share, as you said, that we're meant for more, that we're meant to do something on this earth. And I think that's really powerful, right? Because it's we saw from Alex Ramosi, because you like him so much. You saw the interview, I'm sure, with Tony Robbins, where he was he reached the top of the mountain that most people will never reach, hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's questioning life and looking for a deeper meaning. And so I freaking love that. And I think I always say this, I learned this from a mentor, that your words change your world. And what you say out loud, it will come true. What you say internally, what will come true. So if you say you're a loser, if you say I can never do that, you were right. It will never happen. But to your point, if you say the words that I can do it again, I can do it again, I can make it happen. It's one of my favorite quotes.
But you need to internally believe it too. You need to delusionally convince yourself of it. And I think like that's the thing, because for a long time I told myself, oh, I could do it. It was only when I like delusionally convinced myself. And the reason I use that word delusional is because everything was stacked against me for it to work. But when it actually did work, it was when I delusionally believed, like you could not convince me. I genuinely, with the deepest part of me, believed like, yeah, that's going to happen. Like the way I spoke and walked just changed. And because like, I think I love what you just said, but your words, it's really when you believe it yourself, because you could say something, but if you don't believe it, then it won't, turn into action.
100%. What you believe is what you achieve, right? So if you don't internally believe in yourself.
Bro, you got all the quotes today.
Two coffees and a decent sleep will bring it all out. But dude, so let's talk about this competition, right? If for people don't know, Gary Vee had a competition with Stan Store, and the winners got flown out to New York, and it was a competition to make like the most amount of money in a month, right? For their business, right?
Yeah, it was essentially, yeah.
Walk me through what made you decide to take this competition, and walk me through like your playbook looking back. Like, how did you make this happen? Because a lot of people watching, listening to this, they aspire for that $100,000 per month goal, right? Some people maybe just want $100,000 a year, but like we all aspire to that $100K a month. We see it all over YouTube. And I'd love for you to take us back, like decision behind going for the challenge, the delusional belief that you had, and then like walk us through kind of like that playbook.
Yeah. So, at the point I was making anywhere between like 8 to maybe 10K a month, around 8K a month. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm doing decent. But again, I still felt like I didn't feel like I was going as hard as I could go. And then I saw on social media, Gary Vee post about this challenge, and I was like, what's this? I clicked on it and I was like, ooh, okay, 5,000 entrepreneurs competing, and Gary Vee flies them out. And it's like basically whoever can just earn the most. And as soon as I saw that, like I literally it was one of those moments, like a few moments where like something just snaps in you and just lights a fire under both of your feet. And I literally, from the second I saw that, I didn't even hesitate for a second. I said, all right, I'm going to win this. Like I'm going to compete. I'm going to win it. So I went, joined, signed up, and I was like, all right, cool. 5,000 entrepreneurs. Let's do this. And I started, I butcher it every time, but Abraham Lincoln said something along the lines of like, if you tell me to cut down a tree in 6 hours, I'm going to spend like the first 5 sharpening my axe or something like that. I always butcher that quote, but the whole thesis of it is to plan, right? Plan your moves first strategically. So same thing. I was like, okay, I didn't know what the number was, but I went and I looked at the other competitors, and I was like, all right, there are people who have over 1 million followers on short form. I didn't see really anybody else doing YouTube. Everybody was doing short form. I literally, in fact, right now, I think there was only 1 or 2 people maybe that were doing YouTube. And I was like, this is interesting. I said, okay, if there are 1 million, let's shoot for, like, if I want to win this, let's shoot for the famous number, 100K. I was like, all right, so that's the output. Again, same thing. What are the inputs I need to put in? I was like, well, I definitely can't out volume them, right? Now, luckily, there were no rules in terms of what you could sell. So I was like, okay, these people have 1 million followers, but they make content very broadly about random stuff, being a parent, about business here, and then like field trip, whatever the random stuff was they were posting. I was like, all right, so that tells me that a lot of their audience probably isn't, like, they're not core buyers. And I was like, okay. And I went and I looked at what they were doing, what they were selling. It was all low ticket, all of it, right? And I was like, okay, if I can't out volume them, I could definitely out convert them. And I was like, that's going to be my play. I'm going to out convert them. And I'm going to go the complete opposite route of everybody. Everyone was doing low ticket. Everybody. They were just following each other, right? It was like, what is it? The herd effect or whatever. Do you know what I'm referring to? It's like when one person does it, everybody just follows.
Yeah. The white sheep, black sheep kind of idea, right? Everyone's following the herd.
Yeah, everybody just followed the herd and did low ticket. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do high ticket. I just did the math because numbers don't lie. I was like, on average, I know from YouTube, I can expect about a 1% conversion. At the time, I had around like 26, 28,000 subscribers. I was like, 1% of that's around 280, 300 buyers. Worst case scenario, let's say I convert at 0.5%. So I cut that in half and I was like, okay, if I want to make 100K, that means I need to charge $300 or whatever the amount was to each of my 1% people convert. I was like, let's play it safe. And then I was like, I broke it down. I was like, right, with YouTube, you have new casual and core audience members. I want to make sure I leave no money on the table for this month. So let me make a low ticket product to hit my minimum viable ceiling. So like $300 for a low ticket course, pre-recorded, do it yourself. Mid ticket was a consulting offer for my casual audience, and then like $5,000, and then about $8,500 agency offer, high ticket. And then I had like an offer for each basically audience segmentation that I had. And then I just went hard and I just focused on out converting everybody rather than out voluming them. And I literally 12 hour, shout out to my wife, 12-hour days, like just nonstop. It was, dude, I've never been so locked in. I was just going so hard, finding new ways to reach out to people and get people into the funnel and get people to buy. And then before I knew it, the contest was over and I was in 5th place. It was the top 5. I made it to 5th. And yeah, that's basically how I went about it.
That's freaking, like, I want to just say something. You made $100,000 in a very short time with only, 25,000 subscribers maybe at the time?
Yeah, I think it was 26, 27-ish, somewhere around there.
What's your belief with YouTube? Because I think that is something that people would be shocked about, is that they believe, right, that, well, if I want to make $100,000, I need 100,000 subscribers, don't I? I need a viral video. As you were alluding to earlier, these coaches and creators with millions of followers. So what is your belief when it comes to YouTube success? Because at the end of the day, we want to grow a channel, right, to grow something else, our business, and create a better life. So maybe you walk us through some beliefs you have with YouTube in its current landscape right now.
That's a really good question because there's a lot of controversy out there of, okay, do I focus on super niche, low view revenue, converting focused content, or do I focus on viral content? Fundamentally, I know it's not sexy. I believe there's a balance, and I will explain why. Because, if you just look at like the basic economics of what it takes to get people in and sell something, you need traffic, right? You fundamentally need traffic. I think that that's where your viral optimized content or growth optimized content comes in. But you also need content that speaks to your ideal client profile, your ideal viewer, in order to get them to convert, right? Because your content is solving a problem or giving them a solution to a problem they have. Now, I think that, like, as simplistically as I could word this, if you have a really strong synergy between your audience, the content you make for that audience, and the offer you have tailored to that audience, you will crush it. Now, the only thing is I need to get traffic in there. And that's where like deep ideation and research comes in, which we can get into if you want. But I do believe there's a balance. Like I don't agree with the people who say just create as much volume of content, like low effort content as you can, and optimize it to a super hyper specific profile, solving a specific problem or pain for them. But I also don't agree with the people who are just like go entertainment, ultra kind of viral. As I said, it's not sexy because it's not contrarian at all, but I believe there's a nice balance between the two. And you could see that it reflects in my content too. Like you'll see that I intentionally have videos that don't really perform, that are around 1,000 to 2,000, sometimes 5,000 views, very focused on YouTube growth for conversion's sake in terms of revenue. And then every about 5 to 6 videos you'll see, I have a really high viewed video. And those are because I specifically optimize it to be a growth video, because I like the balance between conversion content and growth content if my goal is to grow an audience and also make money at the same time. it really comes down to clarity and understanding what your goals are. Like if your goal is just scaling revenue and your goal is just growth, the strategies may look a little bit different.
This makes me think about what Alex was talking about at the last school school games recording, where he was revealing his second channel. And for those who don't know, Alex Hormozi has a second channel, a highlights channel. He mentioned he's posting 20 times a day on YouTube. This is long form, very specific business centric content. And he said that those videos are generating less views, but more leads and money for his business. How is the typical person supposed to compete with that? Compete with people at such volume, at such, like, how am I supposed to compete with someone like that if I want to take a slice of the pie that's on YouTube? Any like thoughts around that?
Yeah, I do have a lot of thoughts on that actually. So the reason that Hormozi was on stage, he was on it for a limited amount of time, so he had to be vague, he couldn't be really detailed, but I'm sure that he would agree with this, which is the reason Hormozi can have a channel where he posts 20 times a day with almost no packaging, like it is the most unoptimized thing ever. It's a very low effort. It's like the most unoptimized thing you could do. And the reason it's not getting many views at all, but it is still getting leads and stuff. The reason that is I believe it's because it's Hormozi. Like I know for myself, when I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see a Hormozi highlight video, I click on it because I see Hormozi. If I didn't know who he was, I would not be clicking on that video. And it really comes down to what works on YouTube. YouTube really is just a psychology game. I recently analyzed over 5,000 of the top performing thumbnails. It's a video I'm coming out with in the community soon. And to kind of, because it's one of the biggest struggles people have is with that. And like to try to break down what's working and what's not, really it comes down to psychology. Like there's so many different formats and stuff. The things that perform the best are all hit on something that evokes curiosity, a fear of missing out, or FOMO, or some sort of emotion, hits on some sort of pain point or something like that. And this is really like, let's go back to the very core. And this is what Gary Vee said when I was at VaynerMedia as well. Like when I was with Gary Vee, one of the things they were saying was, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, the most important thing with YouTube is the idea. The next most important thing is the packaging, and then the value in the video. Like, so my best advice for anybody who's not Alex Hormozi and you hear that, like what is a thing you can do? Make sure that you come up with proven to work ideas and you validate them. Make sure that you come up with packaging that resonates, that creates some sort of curiosity. And when I say packaging, I mean the title and the thumbnail, right? And then third, the value. Have a unique, polarizing, not controversial, but polarizing perspective or thought process in the video. Value is subjective, right? When you go to watch a Mr. Beast video, the value is entertainment. When you go to watch Hormozi, the value is actionable, tactical business advice. So I think and I know those are very vague. We can go into each one of those, idea, packaging, and value if you want, but basically those are the core things I would focus on regardless of your goals. Regardless of your goals, I would focus on the idea. Because without a good idea, everything else kind of just crumbles. I would focus on good packaging because it is a click and watch platform at the end of the day. And if you are a nobody knows who you are, then nobody will click on it just if it's a screen grab of you, unless it's emotionally enticing in some way. And then the value of the video, focusing on making an actually good video where you're not just echoing 50 other creators.
I think what you're talking about is what quality content is, because a lot of people watching this right now probably have a belief that quality is like, in our production quality. Like we have some pretty cool sets. Like we have some nice lighting. Like we're properly lit. We sound great, right? Like this is what quality is. But then if we're talking about garbage, then that's not going to be valuable, right? So I love that you're saying you led with the idea is the most valuable thing versus the actual video itself. Would you agree, if you had to pick one, would you rather have a quality packaging? In your case, it's the idea, thumbnail, title, or would you rather have a quality video? What would you say is more important if you had to pick one?
It depends. So let's play this out 2 times. If what's in most important, like if you're optimizing for as much of growth as possible, then the packaging is more important because it's going to get people in. Nobody's going to click and watch. If making sure that you are actually delivering on really good and tangible value, it's going to perform really bad if you don't have good packaging, because again, it is a click and watch platform. But the few people who maybe do click on it, you at least build a lot of reciprocity and good trust and goodwill with. So it really depends. Like there's kind of 2 sides of the coin there, but always, if you want a video to perform well, it always first starts with the idea and then the packaging.
Well, I love you say that. You brought it back to the goals, right? Are we trying to grow our business? Or are we trying to grow our brand, trying to grow the channel? Like you started with the goal first to dictate. And I love that because you're not just like, oh, this is the best, right? Black and white, that is. It's very much is like, it depends on what you want, what you're optimizing for. If it is growing the channel, like you said, then you want to optimize, like, because we have 100%. We can't put 100% to the video and 100% to the thumbnail. We have to, choose wisely where we put our energy and time. And so I love that you are talking about that. And this is cool because YouTube's changed a lot over the years. As you know, you've been on the platform for over 8 years. Yeah. And do you believe in this idea that we see across YouTube that subscribers don't matter?
Yeah, subscribers don't matter at all. But what does matter is engagement. Like, for example, I have sponsors reach out to me all the time. Certain pretty decently sized brands have reached out to me and quite literally on calls told me they don't even care or look at subscribers. They care about how much engagement you're getting because it makes sense, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the number in your profile says. What matters is the number of views you're actually getting every video because that's where all of the weight is held.
So engagement is the views, is it comments? Like what's
views,
important
really,
here in the engagement?
Views. More than anything else, probably views. Like, for example, a sponsor, they want to see, like, I'm using a sponsor as an example because they usually are like the forefront of what's deemed most important because they're paying literal money as a transactional process for your videos, for the views or the attention that you can garner. So typically, subscribers are irrelevant now, really across all platforms with how the algorithm works. So like, for example, I'll take the example of sponsors. They'll look at your, last 5 to 10 videos and say, okay, how many people are watching his videos on average? That's what they care about. How many people are watching, seeing, because that's how many eyeballs we can, expect to see on our product or service, whatever it is.
It's so crazy. Like when I first started, that was the end goal, was like this subscriber count, like getting the YouTube play button, Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't even matter anymore. So it's just like so funny, but it's also really eye-opening that the playing field is level. Like you could start a channel and totally outbeat people who've been on the platform for years. And it's like it's a blessing and a curse of that there's so much opportunity, but I also think people have this belief that there's so much competition. There's so much, it's already been done. Or how am I supposed to stand out? How am I supposed to garner this attention? So this is a big question, but I want to ask you, if you're going to restart your channel today and with the goal to grow your business, grow your brand, let's walk through these steps because you're giving us some really great gems on what to focus on, but people love a playbook. People love a plan.
Yeah.
If you were to start again today, what direction would you go? Would you start a personal brand channel, a podcast channel, and walk us through maybe how would you get to 100K per month?
Good question. Also, probably a long answer. In terms of competition, I will say that's good. It means there's demand. Like don't be scared of something because it's competitive. You will never start on YouTube if you think that way. Or you'll start in a place where you think is a blue ocean, but in reality, it's just, there is no total addressable market, right? So that's first and foremost in terms of competition. Now, in terms of making a video perform well, usually what I like to do is there's really like competition's good, especially if you're early. So if you see something starting to get very competitive, and it's in its early days, your superpower is going to be speed. How fast can you get onto that, get inside of that competition and be a part of that? Because if you're on early days, I promise you it's going to get even more competitive, and then your video is going to be one of the first ones that goes up with that. Now, if I had to start over, I think the full playbook that I would do is I would get clarity on what my goal is. Like, okay, and it depends if I'm doing high ticket or low ticket. That's another thing in terms of my offer. But basically what I would probably do is I would choose, is the goal, the hypothetical we're doing right now, if I were to start it over, is it to get growth or to reach a certain money amount?
Reach a certain money amount, make money. We want to grow our YouTube. We want to grow our channel to grow our business.
Okay. So we're taking that approach. Okay. Because if we were taking the growth first approach, then I was going to give you something different. Okay. So how can we make money? What I would do is I would niche down, but not so hyper niche where there is zero total addressable market of people who watch it, but just broad enough where it's not too broad and I'm still speaking to a specific person. And ideally that person is a person that has money to invest, because if I'm trying to focus on making money, I'm going to have something high ticket. And it just makes sense, because if you look at the conversion percentages on average from content to offer, the only real way you will make substantial revenue quickly is with something high ticket. I always trip out when people say, oh, I'm going to sell something low ticket, and they're like just starting a new channel. I'm like, good luck. You won't get to the revenue numbers you want to get anytime soon.
It'll just be hard, right? It's just like you just need so much traffic.
Yeah, you need more volume. So my approach would probably be a Pareto principle strategy where it's 80-20. I do 80% of my content, which is revenue focused content, and 20%, which is growth focused, bringing in new traffic. And that 80% would be real tactical, tangible stuff, coaching breakdowns, like walking through the process of how I'm achieving whatever I'm saying I'll help them with. So like, let's take YouTube Strategist as an example. Like, it'll be like me on a one-to-one coaching call with somebody, building their strategy out together, like, and then posting that as a video. It'll be videos where I walk through like actionable things, like how I step by step come up with a video, validate a video idea, proven to generate revenue overviews or something, like tactical stuff like that. And then 20% would be more growth focused for that niche specifically. So I don't know, give me a niche, give me a random niche and somebody would go into to make money. We could use that as an example.
I mean, fitness is probably the clearest, easiest.
All right, cool. Fitness. You chose the most saturated thing. Let's do it. Let's rock with fitness. All right, so I'm going to do 80-20, 80% conversion focus, 20% growth focused. Let's say that the offer's high ticket coaching. Let's say it's 90 days, 5K, and it's like full biohacking, right? So maybe I'll do real tactical stuff, maybe like sessions that I have with clients, or like the nitty and gritty stuff, like how to increase your like Aura Ring score or something like that. And of course, everything I'm telling you would first be validated. So I'd do ideation. My favorite research tool is Velio. I would go into Velio, ideate, and validate all within there. And then I would get that 80-20 split. And then 20% of my content would be more broad appeal stuff to bring in a new audience. Because again, we need traffic. And it would be things like how to lose visceral body fat in 7 days for summer or something. You know, like something very broad, total addressable market that's going to bring in a big new audience that we can nurture to our casual and then core. That would probably be the growth or the strategy that I would do. The strategy that I would do if I wanted to just grow a channel first is a little bit different. But there are a lot of areas that cross-pollinate within there. I think if you can find topics, or basically if you can find like a topic that resonates within your audience. So let's say that if I'm a high ticket personal trainer, one thing that my ICP struggles with is sleep. They can't get good sleep because they're always stressed. I'm going to take that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find something that's trending worldwide. So what's something that's trending worldwide? Maybe Claude AI, right? I'm going to try to merge those things together. And then I'm going to do, okay, so the Claude system I developed to increase my sleep score, right? And then maybe it's like whatever it is. And you're taking those two things together, and that's when you can crush. For example, I just got done filming a video I'm about to release. It's focused on growth and virality to bring in new traffic to my channel. And it is called, I did exactly that. I took what's a trending format in my space right now, YouTube education. YouTube's changing. The algorithm's changing. This is a common thing I'm seeing. All right, cool. Claude Code is blowing up worldwide. This isn't even an AI trend. This is at this point a world trend. Claude Code, that kind of thing. Took those two things together. Claude Code is changing YouTube forever. And now it's like, all right, cool. Now we have those two things merged together to create like a pretty viral, optimized video that also really attracts my ICP. This is what I call a unicorn. It's where we can create a really high performing video that is just the widest net of our ideal client, or at least adjacently speaking. These are harder to do because they take more effort, but that's basically what I would do. Like real actionable stuff, that's probably what I would do.
And so when you're researching these viral ideas, are you going on Google Trends, or is this the tool you use? Like, where are you finding these ideas, these formats? Because a lot of what you're talking about is the research stuff. So it sounds like a lot of the fundamental success is in our world, the pre-production, what you do before you hit record, where most people would assume like, I have an idea, they thought about it, and then they press record. Maybe they write a script, but you're doing so much effort in the pre-production, the ideation, and the research phase. So maybe we can go a little bit granular. What does that look like? Google Trends, this tool, what does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So basically, what I do is, first and foremost, I see people make this mistake all the time. What they'll do is they will come up with an idea off the top of their head or use ChatGPT. Don't do that. And then what they'll do after that is film the video, and then they'll think about their packaging, their thumbnail, and their title. They'll use vidIQ to auto-generate their title, whatever. And then they wonder why their videos don't perform. Well, it's because every single human who is trying to do YouTube is doing the same thing. So what I do is I essentially, all of the upfront work, which is the most important work, I first come up with an idea, validate the idea. I come up with my thumbnails, get them made before I even ever script my video. Because if those two things aren't dialed in, then I'm going to be wasting my time. So you ask, what does that process look like? I would be lying if I said I did anything other than use Velio. I use Velio for everything right now. In the past, I've used a lot of other methodologies or ways of doing this. I use the YouTube research tool called Velio literally for all of my clients and all of my videos right now, because it is the unsung hero in my opinion. It is probably the most powerful tool, especially, I was just on a call with the creator, Marcus Jones. He's a creator who has over 400,000 subs himself. So he knows what's working, what doesn't. And it is like, I was in awe with some of the things they're about to release to make this process so much more easy for all of us. And what I do in there is inside of there, you can create a database. Think of it like a folder on your computer, and you can create a database of all of the top performing channels within your niche. So if I'm in YouTube education or fitness as this example, I can go in there and I can go through its prompt powered with AI, where it will help pull all the top performing channels in my niche, and it'll build me a database or a folder. I can go into that folder, and then what I do is I can do one of two things. If I have an idea, like for example, I'm like, okay, Claude's popping right now. What I'll do is in the fitness database, I will type in the search bar Claude, and I'll see, has anybody else come up with anything about Claude in the fitness space? And then I'll try to validate it that way. Alternatively, what I'll do is there is a trending tab. So there is a strategy that has been widely spoken about at this point, and it's pretty oversaturated. Like it's like very 2004, very 2005, which is the outlier strategy. It's where you find a video that's been proven to work well, and you basically recreate that and put your own fingerprint on it, right? Reverse engineer what's already working. Problem is, this has become extremely oversaturated. So if Alex Hormozi posts a video and it becomes a big outlier, and then you go and recreate that concept, but make it applicable to your niche and it doesn't perform, you're gonna be like, oh, this strategy doesn't work, right? It still feels like a lottery ticket. I still feel like I'm throwing video ideas at the wall, but they're not sticking. That's because you don't have the competition. You don't know if it's oversaturated or not. Like I said, competition is good if you're early. Otherwise, we want to avoid it in terms of ideation. So Velio has this really cool tool called trending, where you can scroll through and actually see the outliers, and you could see how many videos have been made on it, so you could see the level of competition. So what I do is I always look for videos that have a good outlier score that are with low competition. Now, I do make videos with high competition if I see it was made like within the week or 2 weeks or so, right? So for example, if I see a video that was made 3 days ago and I see there's 500 videos of competition, but it's still getting like 600 views an hour and it was done 2 days ago, I'm gonna make that right this second, because that is ultra validated. It means it's working well. And it means that this is where I mentioned speed comes in. This is where speed comes in. You have to be fast with it. And then you could be a part of that growth. If you're too late or you wait too long, then it won't perform. So that's literally actionably how I go about it. Now, Velio has this new tool they just released. It's in beta, but it's available for everyone, which is an AI agent. And it basically, inside your database, you can open this agent and you could ask it to pull the top performing, trending, low competition ideas, and it will just tell you which ones there are already without having to research it. And then you could literally just make those. Like, it is really easy with Velio. So that is my exact ideation process. And then in terms of thumbnails or packaging, I go and I will look, like, for example, if I'm making a video about how Claude has changed YouTube, I'll see, all right, what are other creators doing? What concept did they use that worked well? And then I'll just go into the AI space and just type in Claude. And I'm like, oh, interesting. This video has like 3 million views. It's a big outlier and it's a different concept. What if I made this concept and brought it into my niche? So I'm unique and standing out. So I'll take that concept. And I always take 3 thumbnail concepts, completely different concepts, not just changing the color of my shirt or text, 3 completely different concepts. And then I will split test those concepts. And I have 3 thumbnails ready to go and made for each video so that I could split test them. And if anybody says, wow, that's a lot of work. Well, one of my most viral and profitable videos, what I call unicorns, it was underperforming in the first 24 hours. I ran a split test with 3 different thumbnails. And because one resonated significantly more than another, that video took a full U-turn and then 48 hours later had hundreds of thousands of views. So split testing and going through the extra work of putting in just 2 extra thumbnail concepts doesn't take much extra time, is literally can change the trajectory of the growth of your video. So that's exactly, I know that was crazy tactical and maybe didn't make any sense, but that's essentially how I go about ideation right now. There are a lot of other ways I go about it too that are even more in depth and more tactical, but that's probably like the most beginner friendly.
Yeah. I think it's super valuable because I think a lot of people have a big question mark when it comes to YouTube. There's so much different advice on there. What used to work, what works now. You know, the goats that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers you're seeing are not getting the same amount of views they used to get. And I think it's because they're not doing the work you're doing. They're not helping the people you help. They're not in the weeds of like, what I love about what you said was none of that was hacking the algorithm. It was about understanding human beings. You're looking at what do people care about, right? You said earlier, like valuable content. There's something I've learned again from my mentor is, I think Tony Robbins actually said this first, but I learned it from my mentor that value is values. So what people value, that's what makes valuable content. And value is subjective. Some people care about freedom and autonomy. Some people care about making money and building a massive business. They're both valuable to different people. And what you said about clarity, I want to hone in on that. What I'm taking away from this conversation is you have tremendous clarity on who you want to help and what to go about it. And your execution is like next level. Like, and I can see why you like Gary Vee, because Gary Vee is an execution master. He doesn't overthink. He acts, he goes, he learns. And I think we're in an era of overthinking. We're in a day and age where we overthink everything, including myself, with our videos, and then we don't even act. And then how are we ever going to get the result? And your story of building these 13 businesses, failing on YouTube for years before ever popping off, is really motivating. And as we're kind of like landing the playing field, we've talked a lot about business and YouTube. I want to give you an opportunity to leave people with a message, something that they can take away with after listening and watching this conversation, and probably running out so many notes. I know I will when I review this back. Is there any leaving message you want to leave people with when it comes to success on YouTube, business, whatever? I want to give you that opportunity.
Enjoy the process. I know that sounds super cliche, but after that 100K month I hit, I got super burnt out, and just basically like a whole month just like of nothing. And I was just like, I am dreading doing what I'm doing. Enjoying the process and finding a way to enjoy the process. And listen, reality is reality. We're not always going to enjoy the process, but try to like take seconds and embrace the moments that maybe it's not working so well, and the moments that it is working well. And like, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I love to give people is in terms of failure, because the most progress I've ever made was in failure, not success. And most of the learnings I've ever had was from failure and not from success, in the sense that I think the core message I like to leave back to people in terms of that, and what really helped me a lot was like, and this just cross-pollinates with YouTube. Like, I could have a video that doesn't perform well, and then I'm like, oh man, that sucks. And then I go do another video and it doesn't perform well. Oh man, that sucks. But if I never stop and analyze why, I never know what to change and what to fix. And it's the same thing like with business and with life. I think it's like, I love the concept failing forward. So I think the best piece of advice I could give, or kind of closing thoughts in terms of YouTube and in terms of just business or life, it's like, take your failures and like actually study them. Because a lot of people say like, yeah, just stack failures, fail, like all this stuff. But like, I failed for years and it did nothing. It just pissed me off and made me feel more detached and more like a loser and more like I was incapable of doing the thing. It was when I took the failures and actually studied them and analyzed them like data points, and realized, oh, I failed because I did that and that. Okay, so what if I try this again and I don't do that? What if I do this instead of that? And then actually taking action as quick and executing as quick as you can. I think that's the best thing I'd give you. Like, if you're here listening, like, study your failures and then execute, like come up with a hypothesis as to how to move forward and execute with speed. I think that's one of my most unfair advantages, is not a personal unfair advantage. It's one that anybody and everybody can have. And it's failing forward with speed. Yeah. Sure. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Go subscribe to me on YouTube. My name's Dylan Reynolds, Dylan, Reynolds, like Ryan Reynolds, and I'm not related. And then you can join my free school community. There was 2,000 members of other people trying to grow on YouTube. It is called the YouTube Blueprint, and it's completely free to join. Or you could join my paid one if you guys want real fast growth, which is the YouTube Blueprint Pro. And other than that, Instagram at Dylan R Reynolds _. But yeah, the best places to find me are probably the free school community or paid, and then the YouTube.
Yeah, I'll say the paid is pretty epic. I'll say that. I'm
Thank
in the
you.
paid, and it's freaking unreal. Dude, thank you so much. All the links will be in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening to this, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.